Hello. It's time. Let's begin. Today's slide show a brief introduction about Oracle on Starcoin, the first move public blockchain. First, the question: what is a blockchain Oracle? And you can Google the keyword blockchain Oracle, and results include this. A blockchain oracle is any device or entity that connects a deterministic block data. The term off-chain is also called outside world or so-called real world. They mean the same. A blockchain oracle are the services that send and verify real-world occurrences and submit information to smart contracts, triggering state changes on the blockchain. Blockchain oracles serve as a bridge between blockchains and the outside world. Etc. Why an oracle is needed? To answer this question, first, need to know what is blockchain deterministic. What is deterministic? This content also Google. Determinism means that we reach exactly the same state as everybody else if we enact the same operational steps in the same order. This property makes a blockchain what it is. Fundamentally, a blockchain's decentralization and censorship resistance features are possible because every node in the network validates every transaction in a deterministic fashion and all agree on the system's current state. It means smart contracts cannot communicate directly. They must rely on the outside world pushing information to the network. Developers who know about functional programming can understand this easily. In functional programming, the output of a function depends only on its input. So now we know what is blockchain oracle. Let's get down this section. Oracle design pattern. Content in this section is partly from the book. From the book Mastering Ethereum. All oracles includes the ability to first collect the data from an off-chain source. Second, transfer the data on-chain with a side message. 3, make the data available by putting it in a smart contract storage. Once the data is available, in a smart contracts storage, it can be accessed by other smart contracts or other clients. And the three main ways to set up an oracle can be categorized as request, response, publish, subscribe, and immediate read. The simplest oracle design pattern is immediate read pattern. This type of oracle stores data once in its contract storage. Whence any other smart contract can look it up using a request call to the oracle contract. What is the address of Ethereum book.info? Or is this person over 18? This question, those wishing to query this kind of question tend to do so on a just-in-time basis. The lookup is done when the information is needed and possibly never again. The second oracle design pattern, pub/sub pattern. This category has a pattern similar to RAS feeds, where the oracle is updated with new information and a flag side signals that new data is available. Interested party must either poll the oracle to check whether the latest information has changed or updates to oracle contracts and act when they occur. Usually we can use an off-chain daemon to do polling or listening job. Ethereum event logs or our Starcoin events make it particularly easy for applications to look out for oracle updates. This is an example. Chainlink provides keepers service to help implementing pub/sub oracle pattern. A major limitation of smart contract that they can trigger or initiate their own functions at arbitrary times or under arbitrary conditions. You can follow this link to see the Chainlink keepers service details. How to use this keepers service? You can first register an upkeep with some condition in Chainlink keeper registry. Then the keeper node invoke RPC method ETH call in order to determine if the off-chain simulation of your check upkeep confirms your predefined conditions are met. The keeper will broadcast a transaction to the blockchain executing the perform upkeep method. And the third oracle design pattern, request response pattern. This is where the data space is too huge to be stored in a smart contract, and users are expected to only need a small part of the overall data set at a time. In practical terms, such an oracle might be implemented as a system of an on-chain smart contracts and off-chain infrastructure used to monitor requests and retrieve and return data. Actually, it is a request asynchronous response pattern. More precisely, for example, Chainlink used this pattern to provide their any API services. And client contracts transfer some link token and call Oracle contracts. Then off-chain Oracle nodes monitor requests, correct data, and return data to Oracle contracts to fulfill Oracle requests. Then Oracle contracts call back client contracts, so client get response data finally. You can follow this link to see the details of Chainlink any API services. After theoretical share above, let's see Oracle implementations on Starcoin. Starcoin is the first move public blockchain. And Oracle implementation on Starcoin first, you can see there are an Oracle framework and a price Oracle implementation in Starcoin VM standard library. In this directory, and Stdlib includes these Oracle modules. And in module, Oracle includes basic functions to help implementing oracles. And in module price oracle is a price oracle implementation which provide U120A typed price values. And price oracle scripts includes public script functions, which can be invoked by transaction scripts. Now, since we already have a price oracle implementation in Starcoin Stdlib, the next is how to use. And let's say we want to build a Bitcoin to US dollar price oracle. First, we need to implement a marker type to identify the token pair. This is move code. The BTC underscore USD is a very simple struct because it's just a marker type. Then you can compile move code to .mv file and deploy it on chain. You can use the Starcoin console to do this. Of course, you can use JSON RPC to deploy, like JSON, like a Starcoin Java SDK. And in our Starcoin Java SDK and the Starcoin client, there is a method. The Starcoin client, there is a method deploy contract package. It can do deploy things in here. Then, after token pair type deployed on chain, you need to write BTC to US dollar price oracle. You can also use Starcoin console to do this. You can also use JSON RPC method txpool.submit hex transaction to register. You need to know how to build hex transaction. But how to build a hex transaction is a little bit out of the scope of today's share. But you can find a lot of examples in our Starcoin Java SDK, Starcoin Go SDK. For example, in Starcoin client Java, this method transfer some Starcoin, transfer STC. Here is how to build hex transaction. So the Oracle registered before update price on chain. We need to initialize the data source. Can invoke on chain function price Oracle scribes any data source to initialize data source. Or you can also use JSON RPC TX pool submit hex transaction to do this. And then if you want to see if the data source is initialized, you can use JSON RPC method contract call to do this. And you can use curl command to call. Let's see. Now you can see that the data source is successfully initialized. So the steps is first deploy the ME file on chain, and then register price Oracle, and invoke the init data source to initialize data source and see if the data source is initialized. Use the price Oracle is data source initialized method. Okay. Now the Oracle on-chain part is ready. Next, you can go to implement the off-chain part. And an Oracle off-chain component example is in here. This is an application which aggregates Starcoin to USD dollar prices from 3 exchanges. And it also synchronizes some token pair prices from Ethereum Chainlink contracts to Starcoin. And you can see Chainlink price feed contracts in this link. And this is the Chainlink price fee contracts. Deviation means when the price variation exceeds this percentage, and it will be reported on chain. And heartbeat means, or after period since last time report, price is also updated on chain. And our application is this application is also a RESTful service. You can get this URL to see what token prices we currently support. If you need more token pair prices on Starcoin, tell us, we can append this list. Then after the token pair price reported on chain, and Oracle clients can call on chain function price Oracle, get a token price pair. And again, CYR command is handy to invoke. Now you can see the BTC to US dollar price. And this is but you maybe want to know what is the decimal part of this price. And you can call the on-chain function price oracle get scaling factor to get a price scaling factor. Now the result of a price oracle read function divided by this scaling factor, outcome is the BTC to US dollar price with non-integer numbers. Someone may be interested about our daemon team in Vista. The next step about Oracle on Starcoin, but we have not yet clear roadmap because of sort of resources. And someone maybe think we should integrate Starcoin and Chainlink to provide more powerful Oracle services. We have not yet requested integration grants to Chainlink, but there are some challenges to achieve the integration. For example, Chainlink offer chain node implementations is coupled with on-chain Oracle contracts, which are written by Solidity and utilize some EVM features, and which Starcoin doesn't have. And for example, there is not yet a mapping type in Move so far, and dynamic calls and cyclic dependencies are forbidden in Move. Maybe more other challenges on the way of progress. For example, if we want to integrate Starcoin and Chainlink any API service which use request response Oracle pattern, need a mapping, not a dynamic calls are the features of Move, especially dynamic calls maybe being a feature of Move. And look at this diagram. And when on-chain client call Oracle contract, it puts some parameters in a map. And then when Oracle contract callback client dynamically when off-chain not fulfill Oracle request. Obviously, there are cyclic dependencies in here. So a lot of challenges to integrate Starcoin and Chainlink. Maybe our community, our developers can join us to do this.